Hello and welcome everyone to the final part of the Eastern Conference side of things in ranking, giving my thoughts on every single NBA team before the season starts. Now today we're going to round out the Eastern Conference with the Southeast Division. We finished with the Atlantic Division. We finished with the Central. Now we're on to Southeast. And the Southeast consists of the Washington Wizards, the Charlotte Hornets, Atlanta Hawks, Miami Heat, and the Orlando Magic. To start us off with, we have the Washington Wizards. Now the Wizards, they are in an interesting spot in the Eastern Conference because I feel like on paper they have a really weird team in a sense of they traded away Danny Avdija during the offseason for Malcolm Brogdon, which I felt was a little questionable, but now looking back on things, it kind of makes sense in the sense of it helps give Jordan Poole a little leeway to not being the primary ball handler and have him just get the ball and score. Also with Kuzma, that allows him to just get the ball and just score without having to worry about playmaking when Malcolm Brogdon's main reason being there is to play make. The only problem with Brogdon is that the fact that he is on the older side of things. His injury history isn't the greatest. He's coming off an alright year with the Blazers, and I think relatively speaking, it's a really underrated thing they did this offseason. Don't really still understand the idea of trading away Denny, which was a young promising star, but I guess it's to give Bilal Coulibaly and Bud a little more chance to develop without having another necessarily young piece around them. Also, throughout the offseason, they acquired Valanciunas. He's definitely not making it by the end of the year. Be traded, really good contract for his value. $10 million per year for Valanciunas is really good if I do say so myself. And another thing is they also drafted Alex Sarr, which really has a really high ceiling, a 7-footer that can move the way he does. But the only problem with Sarr is where is he gonna fit? What is he gonna do? Because his defensive ceiling is really high. His shooting is alright. And his finishing could be better for a guy who's 7 foot, but there's really high upside for a guy in his potential and whatnot. Also, they have another tradable contract in Saddiq Bey. Probably won't see the floor the entire year, but also a really good role player for this team. Next up, we have the Charlotte Hornets. And the thing about Charlotte is a lot of people, well, I see a lot of people, but the only person I know has high stakes in the Charlotte Hornets this year, who wants to buy a lot of stock apparently, is King of the Fourth Quarter. He has really high hopes for this Hornets.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I am buying all of the stock in the Charlotte Hornets for this upcoming season. I know. I know the track record of this franchise. I know the track record of their star player, and yet I can't stop convincing myself that this is going to be the year that they exceed all expectations. Whew. Okay. Over
team, and honestly, I don't see it. I don't understand why. Because they haven't really done much this offseason. The only thing that can be improved on based on last year is LaMelo Ball's health. He only played 22 games last year, dealing with a lot of ankle injuries. And Brandon Miller, he had a really underrated rookie year, putting up 17 points per game, 45% from the field, and 37 from 3, which really shows his great upside in the scoring wise. LaMelo Ball, with the playmaker that he is, they both have really high ceilings playing with each other because they both balance out each other. Defensively, obviously, they both aren't great defenders, but it's the Hornets. They're there to have fun and shoot guns and get arrested, apparently. But also, Charles Lee, them picking up Charles Lee offseason as a coach, is going to really bring some culture to this team, really put them in the right direction where they need to be. And their draft pick this year being Tidjane Saloon, I believe you say his name. He's from France. Don't know much about overseas hoops. Based on the highlights I've seen, he looks relatively decent. Looks like he can really bring some impact to his Hornets team. And we have Miles Bridges, a lot of controversy last 2 years. Last year made his comeback year after those allegations or whatever it was. I don't really keep up with things like that. But he put up 21-7. And if the Hornets really want to make some noise, they could trade him. More assets around, nothing at the edges. But yeah, that's really about it. The Hornets could make some noise. They still have Mark Williams and his health issues last year. Nick Richards is still on the team. There's a really good upside to the Hornets team. If I don't say so myself, it's just Grant Williams is there for whatever reason. Trey Mann looked really good during the preseason. He goes a good backup guard for this Hornets team. But yeah, they could push for a play-in. I can see it. I can see them pushing for a play-in, but are they gonna do it or not? It all depends on LaMelo's health at the end of the day. All depends on LaMelo's health. Moving on, we have the Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta finds himself in a really odd predicament. I say so because they had the first overall pick last year, and in relatively the weakest draft we had in a couple of years, with Zachariah Richardson, I don't know how to say his name. And honestly, I really did think Atlanta was going to take Alex Sarr the first pick, just to move away from Clint Capella, an aging center, not really the same center he used to be, as a shell of himself. But they decided to go in the direction of drafting Zachariah. And I'm assuming Zachariah's going to play the 3, because Jalen Johnson is going to play that 4 with Trae Young. I do see some upside with them. The Hawks are a really big question mark as a team in whole. We know what Trae Young brings. He's a really great playmaker, really good passer. It's just his 3-point shooting has been shaky as a guy who relies on his 3-point shot. And I'm not saying that in the sense of, oh, he can't shoot the ball. It's more of a shot selection that really puts into perspective of a shooter he really is. The way his shot selection, his shot percentage wasn't great. He was slightly above average last year. And Clint Capella also is another question mark like I mentioned before. Coming off, he's regressing. He's turning 30 years old, the year 10. Shell of himself last year, wasn't really finishing around the rim as much. His rebounding was still good. His rim protection was still good. It's just his finishing has declined in a slight bit. And I think Onyeka is going to have a really big year, honestly, because I feel this is going to be the year where they transition off of Clint and try to move him so Onyeka can fill up that spot for Clint. And shooting-wise, the Hawks really have some great shooters within Trae Young. Bogdanovich is still there, and DeAndre Hunter are really good shooters. Jalen Johnson, he's relatively alright. You can make them up when he's open. But the biggest X factor for this Hawks team is Jalen Johnson. He had a phenomenal rookie year. Let me tell you, no one knew he put us up on the map last year. Stepping up when he needed to, being the rebounder he is, the finisher that he is, the scorer that he is, the defender he is. Jalen Johnson is a cornerstone to this team, which they didn't think they needed. They traded away DeJounte Murray to focus around a Trae Young heavy team, full of defenders, full of scorers, people who can shoot the three-pointer. I think this Hawks team will also push for a playing spot. Are they going to make noise? Probably not, but a playing spot looks like where they're going to be necessarily. Moving on, we have the Miami Heat. Now, the Miami Heat, what I realize about this division is that it's full of teams that could make noise, but if they didn't make noise or do anything with the regular season or the playoffs, we wouldn't really be surprised. And that also applies to Miami. The reason why I say that, yes, they have made the finals 2 out of the last 4 years in this decade. And yes, they made the conference finals almost every year except for last year and I believe 21. And that's also probably due because of injuries, A. And B, Jimmy Butler is getting old. He's not getting younger. And last year proved that them making the play-in last year really hilted them in the sense of Butler got hurt in that play-in game. If he didn't, they still lose to Boston, don't get me wrong, but they could avoid Boston. They could avoid the Knicks. Actually, they can't. But I'm just saying in the sense of they could avoid the top seed if they just compete in the season. But yes, I understand. Jimmy Butler is 33, 34 years old. But this should be the year where they decide, you know what? Give Bam the keys to the team. Because Bam Adebayo is the best player on this team. I'm sorry to say this, but he is. He's a better defender. Only thing he's really missing is that 3-point shot, which we've seen glimpses in during the Olympics. Also, his mid-range shot has gotten better. He just doesn't go to it much often as he should be. We know as great as defender Bam is. We know he's a top 3 defender where he needs to be. He finished in top 3 last year in Defensive Players of the Year. He also has a chance of winning it if it does go right, unless Wemby goes out and wins it. But overall, this Heat team can make noise, but whether they do or not, it all depends on A, Butler's health and availability, and whether or not he's going to try throughout the season. B, Rozier and Hero's health too, because they both barely played last year. And if I'm not mistaken, Tyler Hero and Rozier barely played. Duncan Robinson needs to be a consistent shooter. He has off nights. He needs to be a little more consistent. I believe he shot like 36-37% from three. And we need leaps from Jaime Jaquez and Jovic. Those two need to prove that they are relatively good role players / starters in this league. And I'm really high on Khalil Ware. I don't believe this year he'll start. I do believe probably next year he will take that starting role and move Bam over to the 4, which I believe will open up the game a lot for the Heat. Moving Bam to the 4, which I believe should be his position for years now. Bam is a 6'9" center. You make him a 6'9" power forward. Opens up the game a lot more. He can roam a lot more. He can play off the ball. He could cut, pick and pop, be a lot more effective as a 4 than a 5, but they have no one else put at the 5. And if everything does go right for the Heat, they could easily fight for a top 6, top 5 spot. But it's the Miami Heat. They'll always find a way to get into the play-in. Don't know how, but they will. Moving on, we have the Orlando Magic. And before I talk about the Magic, play the song Orlando. Man, oh man, what a year the Orlando Magic had. Let's really talk about it. What they won, I believe, was 46 games last year. And every single time they won, you open up TikTok to their page, they had their song playing. And it was a really, really great year for the Magic. Now this year, they have their starting fives going to be Jalen Suggs, KCP, Franz Wagner, Paolo, and Wendell Carter. What a great starting five, especially defensively, which they established is their reputation as a team is gonna be defense. They found it, and Paolo is probably the least talked about number 1 overall pick we've had in years, which is surprisingly because he is a really great NBA player, and he had a great first year to playoff. Aren't talking about him, even though he's a really great All-Star caliber player. He just needs, honestly, keep it down low. Keep the less hyped on this Magic team, the better. Because then they're always going to overperform, and people are going to doubt them. Adding KCP really helps their defensive purposes. With Suggs and KCP as a backcourt, every single night it's going to be hell for any guard going against them. Also, with Franz and Paolo being in the front court, really shows that this team defense is going to be great. Wendell Carter being a great rim protector and rebounder, being a great 3-point shooter. The only flaw I can see in this team is their offense. That was their problem. Them being the second best defensive team in the league, then flipping around being, I believe it was like middle of the pack around the offensive range, isn't great. We've seen spurts during the playoffs even that they just weren't scoring the ball. We've seen a lot of spurts where they weren't scoring. They were getting stops. They weren't scoring. We've seen clips during the Cavs and Magic series where both teams were just having sloppy possessions. And I think that's a testament to the Magic's defense and a testament to how bad their offensive is. Because, like I said before, it was a really boring series to watch, but still a great series overall for pure basketball fans, I guess. It still was a boring series. And Franz Wagner has to be able to shoot that ball. Him shooting 29% last year from 3 was not going to cut it. If he shoots the ball even just average, just get to that 35%, make him a threat from that 3-point range, it opened up the floor for the Magic a lot more. Jonathan Isaac's availability is also crucial because in the 15 minutes he plays, he's one of the best defenders in this league. But the only problem is he's always on a minutes restriction because of injury problems, always on 15 minutes per game. But if he is somewhat healthy, this team is going to be scary next year. Could possibly push for a top 3, top 4 seed. Hey man, that's it guys. That's the final part of the Eastern Conference. The Western Conference should be done by the time the season starts. If you guys like this video, let me know in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe for more. See you guys next time. Peace.